Hey guys, this is Ress and Nique, and this is She Wolf Alchemy Podcast. So, today's episode, we are going to talk about imposter syndrome. Essentially, what imposter syndrome is, it's like when you're doubting your abilities and feeling like a fraud. And this can be in work, this can be in your relationship, this can be towards family. It's just having a feeling of like people seeing you exceptional or good or in one particular light, and you feel like that's not who you really are, and like you're eventually going to get found out. Like people are thinking you're better than you really are, or you're doing better than you really are, you're smarter than you really are, you're more innocent than you really are, but you are like, oh my gosh, I'm not that way. Eventually they're going to find out, and it kind of creates like an anxiety around that particular role or identity.
Yeah.
So I definitely have this. I have this in my career mostly. This is a career thing for me. What about you, Nate?
For me, I had sometimes it's in my career, but other times it's family and sometimes friends.
Friends, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So what is it like with friends?
Even like like I'm coming with my friends, they're beginning to know me more, but like high school and college, it was just like, she's nice, she's there, but nobody really like knew my personality. I just had like the shy, quiet girl, or I didn't have much to say. And they would put me in that category, like that's just her. So then when they started seeing my personality, I don't think a lot of friends even really knew me, because they just knew me as a shy, quiet girl of the group.
Oh.
And then when I come out to my personality, they had to learn that person. But they had to learn me, because it was...
Well, and you had a big friend group in high school.
Yeah, but I didn't talk to, like, I did have a big friend group, but I don't think everybody in the group really knew the real me.
Yeah. I don't think that can be hard once you get past a group of like 4 people. It's usually like a core 2 or 3 people. And then the other people are like, yeah, one of them is more cool with them. And then there's an add-on that's more cool with the person. They're more cool. Like,
we all love each other and care about each other, but everybody doesn't know everybody in and out, Yeah.
That makes sense. I feel like with me, it's definitely a career thing. It's the only place I really feel like this anxiety around a certain way that I think I'm perceived. And I think it really goes back, and I know people are going to get tired of me talking about childhood, but childhood really does affect so much. Don't get me wrong, I had amazing parents, loving parents, so I'm not talking about them, but I was just a really overachieving child, and then it became kind of like known as my role in the family, and it kind of became like known as my role with friends and so forth. And I think because of that, it kind of, I thought that was my personality. Like I took on something that I was doing and looked at it as a trait in a personality. And that's not a trait. That's not a personality. Overachieving is not really a personality trait. And I think then as I got older, so one thing I feel like a lot of kids or people who are overachieving, kids or teens, have is that like at some point, one, you get really, really exhausted. Yeah. But at some point, you start believing your own hype, and you start believing like, I'm naturally smart. And you'll stop trying as much. Because you're just like, well, I'm naturally smart. Everybody says this. Everybody knows I'm naturally smart. And then when you stop, there's eventually going to be a point where you come and interact with people who are naturally smart, plus they still try. And then you'll be like, oh, wait, maybe I'm not as smart as I thought. And now you're trying to play catch up. And I feel like that. Yeah. I feel like that's what happened to me. I definitely feel like that's what happened to me. High school was easy for me. It was a breeze. Middle school, all that stuff. And then college was pretty much a breeze for me for the most part. But like it's when I graduated and I got in my career. And the thing is, like, my first job, I had an internship within my senior year of college. I did amazing. I had amazing remarks my senior year, and the internship was like, yes, and we want to hire you, blah, blah, blah. And then I started working there, and I felt like a complete dummy. And there was a girl I graduated with. She still works there. She's like doing amazing. But I remember, like, there were just some things that just came naturally to her. She could just remember, like, yes, we got to do this report and we got to do this. And I got to show up to court, and she would go to court and she would be perfectly fine talking from the court. It was like easy breezy. And I had this whole moment of like, oh gosh, is this a film?
Yeah.
And like, am I really that smart? Especially when I would mess up on things. It hits me so hard when I mess up on something. Like, it's still something I'm actively working through to be like, hey, people mess up. Things happen. Move through. That's not how I handle things. When I mess up, I'm just like, you're so stupid. And everybody knows you're stupid. Yeah. And I think that goes back to being like overachieving and that becoming a part of how people identify me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a major part of imposter syndrome, is that once other people start identifying you as whatever that role is for you, it was like shy and like innocent or whatever, then you feel the need to keep living up to it because you're like, well, this is what people thought I was for like 5 years.
I can't talk or I can't debate or I can't do any of those things because that's not what they think.
And it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard. So what about you? How did you think that all started for you?
It probably was childhood too, like trying to take on the role of like the oldest, like trying to be the leader in the family, or that's when I had to like show it was childhood, being the leader and trying to show that I can do this, or that I need to graduate college first, or I need to achieve this, I need to achieve that. So it put a lot on my back, and it gave me no time to make mistakes. Because I guess I'm like thinking out loud after you talked about it, I felt like the same way in my family, like, and I was like, it's just gonna come to me, like I'm gonna get A's, or so when I would get like a C, or I would get like in Spanish one time I got a D, and I was just like depressed in high school, like, and scared to tell my family. And it's just like, so it started when I was young.
Yeah.
Even going up to adulthood and becoming pregnant, that was like scary.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because I'm like, I'm not supposed to have sex. I'm not supposed to be pregnant before marriage. So it's just like, my whole family feels this way. My whole church family feels this way. Everybody, because even people at church with me since I was a kid. I went to the same church since I was born. So it's just like that. And then family members, distant cousins, everybody thinks you're this perfect angel, and I am I'm not perfect, but I am.
I was gonna stop you, like, first of all, I got some stories.
I'm a good person, but it was just the fact that I had to come out with that gave me a lot of panic. Like, I was happy to have my child, I was excited, but I couldn't show it because I felt that I shouldn't feel happy, because I felt like I was trying to keep up with that persona,
that image.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because that was a thing for me as well. When I got pregnant, and I want you guys to keep in mind, I was 26 when I was pregnant,
and I was 28.
Yeah, and I was 26. I was in grad school. Like, I had a career. I had been in my field for like 4 or 5 years at this point in time. Me and the person, we were engaged. We had lived together. We had been together for like 4 years, and I had a family member, like, when they found out I was pregnant, I had a family member actually say out loud to me, like, we didn't even know you was having sex. And I was like, I am 26 years old. Like, it was this moment. And it's kind of like, I realized it was this moment, because I knew families had a certain image of me. But it was that moment when I was like, oh, not only do y'all think, like, I'm supposed to take over the world, y'all also think like I'm a nun and I just be going to school and working and whatever. But like you, I was actually really scared because I was terrified that, matter of fact, in my family, I was the last one out of my generation of cousins, siblings. I was the last one to have a child.
Yeah.
And everyone, even I feel like everyone, when they found out I was pregnant, was just kind of like, yeah, we never expected that. You know, you the good girl. You supposed to be, you know, getting your PhD. And it did kind of make me feel a certain way. It kind of made me feel like low-key like I disappointed people. And don't get me wrong, people were still like, well, oh, you're gonna be such a great mother and loving and so forth. But it's those little side comments that they say beforehand that makes you feel like, oh gosh, I disappointed y'all.
Yeah.
I let y'all down.
Yeah.
And that is stressful. I definitely felt that way. I felt that way with my professors as well. Because
I felt that, yeah, even that with my employee, like my boss, like it is like they put. Sorry, I cut you off, but I felt that way like at work. Like they even feel like I was such a good girl. Like I did hear them say like it was rumors that one of them said something like, I expected so much more of her. Like it's like stuff like that. Like just can that person just live their life? You know what I mean? That's why they have these. Yeah.
And can I just also say, by the way, because I know everybody when they have an unplanned pregnancy says, I was on birth control. We don't know what happened. I actually was on birth control. Like I just don't know.
I wasn't on birth control. I ain't gonna say I was.
Years at this point, and we really don't know what happened. But like same. Like I feel like I got a lot of that as well. A lot of just like, yeah, I did not expect that. I just thought she was smarter
so
than
much
that.
more of her.
I heard that. That was the one that hurt me. I thought she was smarter than that.
I'm like, okay, like just because I stepped up and you didn't, like, let me live. Like that's, but it is like hard to keep up with that image of your image, yeah, that people put on you.
It definitely is. And don't get me wrong, again, everybody was supportive after, but it's just those comments and it's just those like, oh, I thought this was you. Well, now I'm going to change my perception of you because of this one thing. And again, people were supportive, people were loving, but I definitely had those comments and it definitely made me feel a certain way. And matter of fact, it pushed me to a certain point because like I felt the need, even when my relationship was deteriorating, at one point I remember speaking to someone close to me and being like, I love this person, and me and my child's father are great friends. We are great friends now. You know, like everybody, when you first break up, it's some messiness, but we co-parent really good now. And he is a great friend of mine. Matter of fact, I asked him to edit I have another podcast, a true crime one. I'm sure you guys see me posted on our page. And like he edits it for me. Like me and him are cool and close. But at that point in time, I had come to the decision, like we were getting closer and closer, and people were just like, why haven't y'all set a wedding date? When y'all gonna get married? Like, I don't understand what's the hold up. And it was because I kept pushing it off because I kept being like, me and you are supposed to be great friends. We're supposed to be great co-parents. And I'd rather not go through with a marriage that's I know is going to end in divorce than to do it just to prove and present a certain image. And I actually had someone close to me that literally said to me like, well, I mean, you can just marry him and then like stick it out for a year or two and then get divorced. That way you don't have to say like my baby dad. You can say my ex-husband.
That sounds pretty stupid.
Oh yeah. And I'm
going to go through a whole marriage, a whole divorce, and all that money to say that I have an ex-husband.
All this to preserve a certain image.
Yeah.
All of this to preserve a certain image. And it's still a thing. And not just like within people that's close to me. Like I have met other professionals who I've gotten to know, you know, on a professional, casual kind of level. And then I'm like, oh yeah, my daughter. And I might say something like, yeah, I can't do that because I have to pick my daughter up. And they're like, oh, what about your husband? I'm like, oh no, I'm not married. And they go, oh. And it's like, you can tell their whole perception of me. I had a judge that I worked with, who, like, the moment they found out I had a daughter and was a single mom, all of a sudden it was just like, oh, well, I thought you were of this level, but you engage in ratchetry. No, you were a ratchet. Like, I promise you, that's
you
the
are
feeling
not.
I got. That was the language that she switched up and used, and I was like, hold on.
Especially like being minority. And my job, I was the only minority. Because, well, not when I found out. When I found out, I like kind of clinged to the older Black women that were there. But after that, when I finally had my daughter, I was the only one there. So it was just like, are y'all feeling like pity me? Like, but I'm good. But it's just like, they were like, I thought she was one of the good Black ones or whatever.
Wow, that's so
it was like so uncomfortable. Especially since like the older, you know how like the older Black women, they take you under their wing, and they were so kind and so loving, and then they was like, I'm done with this place. So I'm like, man, I need to be done too, because I can't deal with these people.
Oh gosh, yeah, that job was crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
You would text me and be like, girl, I'm like, they do what? You're like, yeah, I gotta get out of here. I'm like, yeah, you do.
Yeah, it's much.
But yeah, no, see, for me, that wasn't the case. Like, I'm in a very Black city, like, especially when I had my daughter, and the people I was working were Black. So, and don't get me wrong, again, I had a lot of people that know that I'm a mom, knew that I was a mom, single mom, and they were perfectly cool with it, and no one's ever said anything to me. But I definitely did have that one time where it was someone that was a superior, and I mean, don't get me wrong, they have no direct correlation to my job, but they were in a higher position, and I noticed our relationship changed right after that conversation. Mid-conversation, she decided our professional relationship would change. And she wasn't a Black woman, but she was a woman of color, and that, like, it was like the first time I was like, oh, okay, so I'm just not going to mention anything about me being a mother anymore, because that is and a lot of times, you know, when you're professional, you don't bring it up, but I work in an environment where we advocate really hard, long hours, and you kind of become like a family with some of the people. And so we cover for each other. Like, there's been times where, like, daycare was closed because they had a water pipe break, or the snow was really bad there, but my job was like, okay, so we still gonna see y'all at 8. And my boss has been like, okay, cool, just bring Kari. I'll let her play at my office while you're at court. Don't worry about it. And that's happened more than once. And not just with me. I have had other coworkers. One of my coworkers, her daughter went to a private school, and they dropped her off at our doorstep. She would go downstairs, pick her up, bring her back upstairs to our office, let her play while she finished up work. So my job is actually very family friendly. Yeah. So that wasn't a surprise, but also a lot of them are married.
You said R or aren't?
R.
Okay.
R. For a long time, it was me and one of my homegirls, Ashley. We were the only single ones in the group of all of our coworkers in our particular team. We were the only one, you know, you get little jokes here and there, and it's not nothing big. It's not nothing like mean or anything like that. But, you know, again, you'll have those moments where someone will say something and you're like, oh, so this was always in the back of your mind. Interesting.
Once they finally open their mouth to say it out loud.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah. Where are we? Oh, but yeah. So for me, imposter syndrome, pretty much my job is the only place I feel like it's a thing for me, and it's really because, and you know what? Actually, in grad school, it was a thing as well. So one of the things that happens is, and it's also, now imposter syndrome is not an issue for me dating wise, but this particular thing happens to me when I date a lot. You know, people will want to know a little bit about your background, and I'll get into my background. My biological father he's retired, a U.S. diplomat. My mother was CEO of this, director of that, business owner of these businesses. And the same with my stepdad. He was usually head of finance for huge companies. He was the head of finance for this huge sports company in the South at one point in time. Things like that, and business owner, blah, blah, blah. And people will hear that and then have a certain expectation of me. Yeah. All my parents are very, very educated. All my parents have 3 degrees each. And people will hear that and have a certain expectation of me. And that would make me extremely nervous, because now I'm like, oh gosh, y'all expect me to be like, there's one thing about me. I will butcher a word like it's nothing. I am so bad with words. And I read a lot. I promise you do. I love reading. But I will just butcher a word and I'll just keep on going. And it's a thing for me. And I get really self-conscious about it, because for a long time I didn't care. But I had a friend who every time I butchered a word would just like, do you mean this? And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, anyways, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, but like, why won't you say this way? I was like, oh, because my mouth just doesn't form that sound, I guess. And they didn't mean no harm. This really is their personality. It's one of those, like, because I love you, this is who you are. Yeah. I have to accept this is your thing. Mm-hmm. But after that, it kind of made me self-conscious, and it really made me think, like, sorry, people walking around thinking I'm dumb because I keep saying this word wrong, even though I'm using it in the correct way. Even though I wrote a whole, 50-page thesis on this, things like that really made me feel self-conscious. Also, I am a horrible public speaker. I do really good at intimate settings like this. But if someone were to be like, okay, now we want you and Nique to go on the stage and have your podcast, I would not. For all the money in the world, I would not.
Yeah. I think I could, but it'll take a lot.
Public speaking creates so much anxiety in me. Mm-hmm. And I stumble over words. I already pronounce words wrong. And then when I stumble, because I'm so anxious, it makes me forget things. Right. And so I can't, you know what? One time in grad school, I had this group project, right? Mm-hmm. And it was probably 5 of us on the team. And me and one guy, David. Me and David were the only people who worked on this project. Everybody else sent us in, we divided the parts. Everybody had a part they were supposed to fill in. Then we're going to send our information in. Me and David were going to create the PowerPoint and the slides and blah, blah, blah. And then we'll all get up and do our part. But everybody else was sending in 3 sentences for their part. And we were like, yo, we have to talk for an hour and a half. It was one of those, it was time. Y'all got an hour and a half. Y'all need to fill up this hour.
Get it together, yeah.
Yeah. And so we also had to create their parts. We had to write their parts, send it to them. It was like, yo, my GPA is not going to be ruined because of you. Mm-hmm. And, it's not high school. So it's not like we could go tell the teacher. Everybody in the group was 30 plus. I was not going to go tell on Mr. Otis. My teacher was scared to talk to Mr. Otis. He was her senior. We couldn't do that. But I remember we sent them their part, and when it came up to speak, when it came to my part, I butchered it so much. And I was so mad at myself, because I'm like, you wrote this. You wrote all of this. You wrote all this. You know
right. It. You know it, yeah.
Not only that, this was something you specialized on before you even got here. This is your area. Mm-hmm. And so things like that it really makes me feel like when people are like, oh, you're so smart and you're so talented. I'm like, yeah, you think that until you make me talk in front of people. And I feel like that's a big part of being smart, being able to express your smartness. And I suck at that. And so I keep quiet because I don't want y'all to find out that I'm not as smart as y'all think.
Yeah. And that's why I think I'm quiet, because I feel like I made myself look like that I'm the quiet girl. I don't have much of an opinion, so it's hard for me to feel confident in saying how I feel around certain people, because that's just not my role. I'm just the quiet girl. And
it's hard to get out of that. I also think one of the things I always find interesting whenever like me and you have a person in common that we both know or interact with in some way. Everybody assumes you're extremely innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that you're not innocent, but
I am kind of that way now.
Kind of. But no, like not even in the tense that we're avoiding talking about now. I mean, like in all ways. Like I've actually had, and I won't say the person's name out loud because they definitely don't like me and will definitely sue. I know for a fact that if they ever heard their name come out my mouth, they would sue. And I just don't want the problems, to be honest. But this particular person we went to school with, and they were kind of like, at one point, they're like, how are you and her friends? And I was like, what? And they was like, well, I just feel like Nique is really innocent, and you're not. You are very much not. And they were just like, and also like you might be quiet or whatever a little bit in class, but you're talkative, and then like when you are really feeling something, you won't stop talking, and you will like argue back. Like in classes, I would sit there and I'd be cool, but every now and then, you'll have, oh gosh, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but you remember when we were it was like a class about like social justice or something, and that girl stood up in the middle of the professor talking. I don't know if you remember this. Stood up in the middle of the professor talking and was like, oh, by the way, guys, I just wanted you guys to know I got engaged over the weekend. And her little crew clapped, and we're like, we're in class.
I don't remember this, but I remember those girls. No, I don't remember this. But it's the fact that they felt so entitled in that class, like everybody in that class.
No, I think after we record, I'm gonna have to send you. We're going to talk after, because I feel like you're gonna remember who I'm talking about. Yeah, but like it wasn't even like we were all sitting waiting for the professor to talk. The professor was mid-sentence, and she just got up and was like, by the way, I wanted you guys to know I got engaged. And then she showed off the ring, and we were all, and that person that would sue me was sitting next to me at the time, and she was like, is she serious? Like, she had this whole moment. She was like, is she serious? And I was like, I mean, apparently her and her squad.
I know who this person is too.
Which one? The suing or the
suing? I don't know. I don't remember the other one.
Oh, you know who both of them are. You might not remember the other one. But yeah, I know that's off topic. But when I was going into talking in front of class, and it reminded me of that. But no, so like the person that would sue me, they had asked, they were just like, how are y'all friends? Because also like when it comes to class time, I had no problem arguing in class, and not arguing like purposely being aggressive, but advocating. Especially in my field, I take offense in my field. Our job is to be advocates of justice, and I take so much offense when I meet people and they say that's what they are, that's what they went to school for, that's what their calling is, and then y'all say little things like, well, I don't know, I think we should just put all the kids in defects, because I don't know, the moms seem like really ghetto, and I think they would do so much better with this white family of Christians who are, they're going to teach them to be moral, like little stuff like that. Oh yeah, I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna say something. And
I would I would never say anything
right
in class at all.
Whole thing was like, so how did y'all end up being so close? That was her whole thing.
And I actually think I talked to you first, so it's just like,
yeah,
she just wasn't my type of person. But I'm not opening up to people I don't feel comfortable with. So it will come out that way, because I opened up to you, the people we hung with, and you introduced me to other people. I just never opened up to her.
Yeah. But that definitely was the perception. Like, you were extremely, extremely innocent. My perception, I don't know what mine was in undergrad, but my perception in grad school was the aggressive Black woman. That was my perception. Do you know in class, what do they call accolades? Is that what they're called when they superlatives, class superlatives?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what they voted me in grad school?
What?
They voted me most likely to start a riot.
I can see that.
They voted me most likely to start a riot, and they were so proud to give it to me. And I was like, I feel like that's code for angry Black woman, but I'm gonna let that slide. That slide.
You were just like, okay, thanks.
Yeah, it wasn't even a thanks. I just kind of looked around like, who submitted this, first of all?
Right.
But no, I knew why they did that, to be honest. I knew it was for some people it was shade, but I knew for a bunch of them it was just because I was the person in class that kept being sent to the dean's office.
Wait, you were being sent to the dean's office?
Yeah, I was.
Lady.
No, but so look, let me tell you.
See, I don't remember all of this, but probably because it's both.
No, so I think I told you about this. There was a girl. I wasn't in this particular class. The way that they have our class schedule was like half of us was in one class at one time, half of us was in another, and then you would switch. Mm-hmm. And so this girl who they should have never let cross that stage, I am terrified that she's out here handling the mental health of anyone. I don't feel comfortable letting her handle the mental health of a lizard. She should not be in the field, and I stand by that. But she was in another class, and essentially what came out between the other students and the professor had to address it to us in the other class, because they're like, I know how rumor starts, so I'm gonna just address it now. Basically, they got in a conversation. It was more of a sociology type class where she compared homosexuality, polygamy, and what else? It was another thing, but she compared them to bestiality.
Bestiality?
Bestiality.
How did she compare it, though?
No, she said they're all the same thing. If you're gonna be, she said basically like if you're gonna be homosexual or you're gonna be polygamous, you might as well be into bestiality. It's the same thing. Like that was her whole thing.
So did she have something against polygamy and homosexuality? Did she have something?
She was a Southern hardcore Republican Christian from the
And
South.
how did she feel that she could be a social worker?
Oh, girl, when I tell you she is the reason I was in the dean office at least on 2 of those occasions. We also had a group in our Facebook group, and we would talk about like homework mostly, but every now and then someone entered a like interesting discussion, and somehow we got on it because it was around the time Michael Brown had died, was murdered. Let me make that very clear, was murdered.
Yeah.
And she ended up writing, well, all I'm saying is if I'm as a young white woman, if I'm walking by a group of Black males, I know I get scared and I want to clutch my purse. And, I don't know. In my head, I'm like, they might want to rape me. And let me tell you.
Girl.
Let me tell you. So, yeah, I ended up in the dean's office again.
Why she didn't end up in the dean's office?
A paper trail at that point in time.
Why didn't she end up in the dean's office?
I stayed in the dean's office. I don't even know if the dean knows my name, but I know every time she saw me in the hallway, she was like, oh God, please tell me she ain't coming to talk to me. I know, they keep sending me to you. I don't want to talk to you either.
So how do they send you to the dean's office? Like, is it like, oh, you have to go to the principal's office?
No, it's not like high school. Basically what would happen is we would get in a discussion in class, and I would sit there, and then someone would tip the line, and I would be like, so what we not gonna do? Like, I was saying stupid stuff before, but what we are not going to do is blah blah blah. And I would go back and forth with people, which is something I gotta not do. And guys, this is why I don't have a Twitter. Like, because if I'm passionate about something, I will go back and forth with you. I got time. I will be doing my child's hair, still going back and forth with you. So in order to avoid that, me and my therapist have decided to just stop putting me in those situations. But yeah, so basically something will happen. We'll have a debate, and very ignorant things would be said, and I first start off very professional. I first start off very, I understand your perspective, blah, blah, blah. But the more and more ignorant it went, the more and more I had to be like, oh, so you want to get red?
Right.
Okay, we can do this. Y'all didn't know I was from Dayton. Okay, y'all gotta make me bring my Dayton now. Like, don't get it twisted. That Dayton is still in there. And essentially, so that would happen. And then eventually somebody, I don't know if it was the professors or one of the kids, somebody would mention something to the dean, and then I would get a letter like, hey, could you step by the office quickly? Or I'll be walking and they'll see me. Oh, hey, Ress. Can I have just a follow-up conversation with you real quick? And I'll be like,
I'm sure it didn't make it no better when you got pregnant, because it's just like, I know for myself, I wasn't holding my tongue at all when I was pregnant.
Actually, I was, because I was just tired.
Okay.
I was tired. Okay. And yeah, so I was pregnant my last year of grad school, and I was so tired. I was tired all the time. And like, it got to the point that there was one, so I had my child my last semester. I graduated in, was that May or April? It was hot.
It was May. Okay,
May. And then, and of course, Nique came down for my graduation. She's a great best friend. But I graduated in May. I had my daughter in January, mid-January. I took 6 weeks off of school, and I didn't take them off. I worked from home. I was doing COVID before COVID happened. And there were some issues there that we don't have to get into, but I went back to work after 3 weeks, which I shouldn't have. And it was extremely stressful on my body. And it's fine. I just went there, slept, and then clocked out. But I still shouldn't have done that. And I was just tired all the time. I was tired all the time. And I remember one of my last papers, it wasn't my thesis. Actually, I really worked hard on my thesis. I worked really hard on defending my thesis. I did a good job. But there was a paper before then that I just, like, it was like due at 8 a.m. and it was like 4 a.m. And I'm just like, okay, so instead of saying borderline personality disorder is a made-up disorder, it's basically just a whole bunch of other disorders that we can't figure out, and we're going to put it all into one category. Instead of just saying we don't know, we're going to make this into a category. Okay, that's 2 sentences. Instead of saying that, I'm going to say the borderline personality. It is a personality disorder. It's a disorder that is in the DSM-5. The DSM-5 is a book that has diagnosis for mental health. Like, instead of saying that once, I was dragging it on as long as possible in every single sentence. And eventually, my ex at that point in time came. I was like, I need you to read through this. And he was like, yeah, no, please don't send that. Please don't send that. And I was like, no, it's fine. It's fine. And he was like, I know how you stress about GPA, and I'm telling you right now, do not send
this one.
And he sent me to sleep. I don't know what he did, but he finished it. And he got me a B-, so it worked out.
Right. See, he is a good person. It's just,
he's a very good person. He's a great human being.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great human being.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it definitely played itself out in school, though. Even though I think that's also another part of it, because in school I was not afraid to debate. I was not afraid to stand up for what I thought was wrong, or for stuff that I thought was bullshit. Especially in my given field, I just think it's a field that you cannot go into and have these major, huge biases. We all have our own biases, but you cannot have biases that make you deem another person less than.
Yeah, especially when you're a social worker.
Yeah, and that was my major issue.
Yeah,
because I used to hear things all the time and be like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think also because of that in school, it also for some reason gave this illusion that I was this like, oh yeah, she rowdy in real life, and she she gonna get up on that stage and she gonna let them folks know about themselves, and that's actually not me.
Yeah.
That's actually not me. But after a while, it was like I was now expected to be the person that's like, oh yeah, oh, you wait till Ress find out. You wait till Ress find out, because Ress gonna read y'all for filth. And it was really good to graduate and not feel the need to fulfill that role anymore.
Yeah, without the pressure on you anymore.
Yeah, because now I can get away from that. I can start over, and I can be like, okay, so now, and I think the thing about imposter syndrome, though, it's not that you aren't these things. I think it's just the ability to not always see
what everybody else sees.
Yes, what everybody else sees. Because like I have a mentor, and like one of the things I always say to her all the time. Matter of fact, the last time I talked to her, I was saying something about me being sensitive, and she was like, Ress, you're not sensitive. She's like, you're not as sensitive as you think. You're not as emotional as you think. And it's because I had a really emotional year. Last year was really emotional. And I'm not used to having emotions all the place. Yeah. But like, because it's my mentor, and I feel that I can be very open with her, and I feel like I can tell her whatever. And so I was telling her these things, and I'm like, and I'm just so emotional. She was like, I want you to understand, though, you aren't. That's not how you're coming across. But you don't come across to people as emotional. You don't come across to people as weak. And it's sometimes you need people to tell you that, because you're like, this is what I'm putting out, so this must be how everybody's seeing me.
Yeah.
And it's not. Your feelings are not facts. Your feelings are not truth. Your feelings aren't even always valid.
I'm talking about feelings when it comes to what other people thinking.
Yeah. Well, or what you're thinking about yourself.
Okay.
So if other people are thinking, like for me, other people are thinking like, oh, you're gonna do all these great things and blah blah blah, and my feelings are, I can't do that. Like, I'm not the person for that. I don't know why y'all keep thinking I should be moving up this ladder and doing this and this and that. I'm not that person. But those are my feelings, and for some reason other people are like, you are amazing, you are doing the thing. And in my head, I'm just like, I don't know why y'all seem to think that. I just keep getting lucky for some reason. Eventually luck is gonna run out. And that's like my self-talk. But my self-talk,
that isn't good self-talk, though.
It's not good self-talk, but it's not even valid self-talk. And I think for me, not even just with imposter syndrome, for me with a lot of things, I feel the need to not allow myself to get too happy about things. Because when things don't go as planned or as well, it hurts me in a way that I think it doesn't hurt most people. It hurts me in a very profound type of way. And so I think to try to always protect myself from that type of pain, that type of disappointment, I don't allow myself to think the best.
Right.
I always allow room for panic. So then if things don't go right, I'm already prepared. I'm already mid-panic. It's fine. I'm actually almost done with the panic.
I think I wasn't like that before, but after so much happened to me, I became that way. Like, even like when I was trying to get a home, I'm like, well, that's what they are saying, I want to get it, but I won't believe it until I get it. Because it's just like, I feel like it's going to be taken away. And it's not, I don't feel like it destroys me. Like, it's not like it really can get to you. Because I just become numb to not getting what I want. So I just know it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. So that's what, but that's not, either way, it's not a way to live.
Oh, I agree.
I have become that way.
And I want you guys to know that she definitely meant that last example, because she told me that she was getting her home like 2 weeks before she got it. Like, she was like, oh yeah, because I'm getting a house. I'm like, what? She's like, you want me to send you pictures? I'm like, why didn't I know? You were like, well, just in case it didn't want to happen, I didn't want to tell anybody.
And I did it. Like, I talked to you and I talked to one other friend a lot. She didn't know either.
Yeah. When you told me, I was like, I feel like it's a longer process than that. What do you mean you're moving in 3 weeks?
I was working on it privately. Yeah. Cause I just
But no, I feel you for that, because even like with side projects that I work on, even the podcast, like I don't like telling folks until it gets to a certain level.
Yeah.
I don't like revealing that. I don't like revealing certain things about myself until it's at a certain level. One, I don't want to jinx things. Is the biggest thing. But also, it's always this fear of like, no, because I'm supposed to be doing it at a higher level. Like, even when it's things that like I'm new at, I'm just learning, I'm discovering, and I should be allowed to give myself that grace. I always feel like, no, people expect this to come out as very professional, something I've been doing for years.
Right.
Because for whatever reason, that's the perception people have of me. And so when I'm doing side things and I'm like, no, it's not that level that people expect from me. And sometimes that will psych me out of even starting things. And I really think like us starting this podcast, even the other one, was really a big step out for me, because this has been on my mind for like a year. Like for a year, I think I've been telling you, like, I think I'm supposed to be starting a podcast.
Yeah. So then when you finally started, I mean, it was good that you finally did take that initiative to start it, but I know sometimes you do ask yourself like, well, I don't want people to know all this stuff I'm doing, because they might ask like, why does she think she can do that? And I'm like, because you want to, but it's just like your negative talk.
Yeah,
because you have said that more than one time.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. And it's the thing I'm working through. I'm actively working through and have to remind myself of. But again, that's that imposter syndrome, when you feel like you aren't really the person that should be doing that. Even if people think you are, it's hard to convince yourself that.
Right.
It's hard to convince yourself that you aren't a fraud.
That's true.
Especially when you don't feel like, first of all, and I feel like most adults have some type of imposter syndrome, or at least every adult I know, because all of my friends and associates, we're all, especially during COVID, have been checking in with each other like, hey, so like, are you panicking and feel like you don't know what you're doing and you're like having a midlife crisis even though you're only 30? Yeah, man, I am. Oh, okay, so just checking in. Because I feel like all of us are doing. One of my lawyers, who's amazing, who's absolutely amazing, checked in with me earlier last year and was just like, yeah, I think I took on too much. I think they started a side business, and they're just like, and because they know me professionally in this way and they expect me to be this level, and I don't think, and it was just like that self-talk of like, I am not, these people think I'm amazing and I am not, and I'm terrified. And I was like, oh, no. Let me remind you, you are amazing.
Yeah.
You are amazing. You got a client with a rap sheet of like 20 different charges, a signature monster. You know what you're doing. None of us expected that. You can do this. But I think that's a part of it, is being able to remind yourself like of the things you did accomplish and why people think this. They think this because you are a badass and you were out here doing the thing.
Right, that you, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I know, for example, with you, and this is speaking more to you career-wise, I cannot relate with the you innocent-wise. I have never seen the innocent side of you. So I don't know what to say on that side. But on the career side, like, you definitely were doing the darn thing. Like, you had a fiance that was sick, that was in another state, and you were still doing your work. You was flying back. You were coming out on the weekends to be with him, take care of him, be with his family, figure out what assistance that is needed, driving around to make sure that different paperwork that needs to be taken care of was taken care of, and then flying back that night to wake up and go to work in a couple hours later.
Yeah. And
you still did your job well.
It's still good. But I never, that's the thing, when I'm in this situation, I don't think about nothing. I didn't, that's what I said, like, before I talked to you about, like, just thinking back about where I came from, what's going on. Because, like, when I'm in this situation, I never realize how well I'm doing in the situation. Because I just autopilot and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think back, like, I could have did this different, but I really didn't think. I just do, you know.
Yeah.
So.
But you do awesome.
Yeah.
You do awesome. You do awesome. And one thing I will say is, once you set your mind to something, you make that happen.
Yeah, that's true. Same with you, though. Same with you. Like, yeah, because clearly we were supposed to move to Georgia together, and who's there? You. So it's just like, when you want something, you do it more 10 times more than me. So yeah.
But I think, again, it's hard to think. Like you said, I think also some of the stuff that people get done, anyone who has that feeling of that imposter syndrome feeling like a fraud, but other people feel like, no, you're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, how do I keep it up? A lot of times I do think we are on autopilot.
Yeah.
Because there's certain things that people will ask me about, and how I like, right? Sorry guys, my mic dropped. There are certain things, like even at my current job, I have a group of people who love me, who absolutely love me, and they have been recommending other people to me, and I have been getting cases and stuff that aren't mine. And it got to one point last year where my boss had to talk to their supervisors to say, y'all stop putting all that work on us.
Right.
Like, I understand. And their whole thing was like, she's an amazing worker. She gets stuff done. She gets stuff done that others can't. And that's why we go to her, and blah, blah, blah. And, and I know it was supposed to be a compliment, but at the time it was like, yeah, I got 100 cases. I cannot take on anything else. But even then, when I have one of the supervisors that introduces me to people as, my full name, I'll just say Ress. They're like, hey, and this is Ress Esquire. And I'm just like, oh, please don't say that. I don't really know the law. And I feel like they're going to start asking me legal questions. Please don't say that. Or they'll introduce me as that. And it makes me panic. And I know for them, they're like, this is a compliment. I want to compliment you. But for me, it's like, oh, now you are introducing me at this high level to this other person. And so now all they expect from me is high level stuff. I don't get to start midway and then build up.
Right, you gotta start, yeah.
And then I get fearful because I'm like, girl, I don't know how I convinced that judge to do that. That wasn't strategy, that was a pluck. Like, I need you to understand, that was me going to the bathroom and Googling how to manifest right before court.
Right,
okay,
right.
Like, that's what happened there.
They put so much pressure on you. It's like, because you do have so much pressure at that job. But it's high standard. I mean, you do your job very well, but it's just having to keep up with all of that. It's like no room or space to make a mistake or say, you know what, this is not my job to do all of your job. They have put you up there so high. So that is a example for sure.
So what is your biggest fear concerning imposter syndrome?
My fear, I guess it's like the fear of just being so strong and just trying to keep up that. Like, I don't have time for imperfections, kind of like you, but don't have time to break down because it's like, oh, you're so strong, you're able to this, you're able to do that. So people continue to put stuff on me or continue maybe not even to reach out or just to see if I'm okay because I had this persona of being so strong and being there for everybody else. It's like, no, reach out for me. Or feeling behind or feeling, I don't know, I have feelings of, I guess being left behind, or because I have to be like this strong person, and that's what everybody puts me in that category of being.
Like, you can't reach out, no one's thinking about supporting you because everybody thinks you as a person that can carry it out.
Or if you carry it. Or
I think for me, I believe it's the fear of being found out. The fear of someone finding out like, oh, you're really not as good as people say you are.
Mm-hmm.
You're really not as smart as people say you are. You're really not as talented as people say you are. And don't get me wrong, I definitely have my moments of like, first of all, I'm the best worker here, so I dare y'all to try me. Like, I definitely have those moments. Not like that because my boss is awesome. I don't have to do that. But I definitely have my moments where I'm just like, first of all, I'm the best worker here. I'm not concerned. But I still have my moments where I just freak out randomly, and I'm just like,
right.
Eventually, somebody gonna realize I'm not this smart. Eventually people gonna realize like I'm a Gemini, so I like to read a lot of random stuff, and I know a little bit of everything, like a jack of all trades, like a jack of all trades, master of none type of situation. And it's like eventually they gonna figure that out. And again, though, a lot of times what we feel isn't valid. Like, your feelings is fine, feel your feelings, but your feelings don't mean what you feel is valid. And I just think for a lot of people, we put so much pressure on ourselves, and a lot of times it's external pressure that we internalize. And I think that's all imposter syndrome is. It's external pressure that we internalize, and because of that, our feelings are dominated by those external factors, those external expectations. So now those are dominating my feelings and causing me anxiety, when the truth of the matter is I shouldn't be anxious. I should be like, yo, I'm going to do my best. That's all I can do.
And maybe like
things I mess up on, I will learn from and keep going. But that's not how my brain works. We are trying to get my brain to work that way. We are trying so hard. We are trying so very hard. But I don't know. What do you think helps? I think fight that.
Like looking, like I was saying earlier, like looking back and seeing where I did, how far I have come. Like if we're going back to me being a quiet girl or not having a voice, and seeing how now I speak up, or now I'm finding my voice. Like just me looking back at my growth. And although people put me in this so strong category, or you're so strong, I can see where I have vulnerabilities and opening up to people. Like just like I do feel like I am strong. Like I do feel I am strong. But I want people to know it's all different levels to that too. Like just because I am going through so much and I can handle it doesn't mean I don't need the other people to help me.
Yeah.
So it's just like looking back. That helps me looking back and see how far I come. But I don't know what's helping me about the strong part, because I still feel I need that support too. So.
Yeah, I agree with you about looking back. I think looking back and seeing like, no, see, you are smart. You did do that. You are strong. You did, you showed your strength when you did that. And looking back at those examples are definitely helpful. I would say for me, because mine is so work-centered or school-centered, I was in school. Living life and learning that most people don't know what they're doing kind of helped. Like, I remember, because when you're young, people tell you like, you gotta work hard and that's how you get to the top, and you work the hardest and you will be rewarded, and that's how you become the boss, and blah blah blah. And then you get out in the real world and you realize nepotism is a thing. You get out in the real world, you realize like, oh, she used to be his secretary before he made her director. That's interesting. You find things like that out, and you realize like, no, it's not based on how smart you are. It's not based on how talented you are. There was one time I was semi-offered a position. It was a position that required me to have my clinical license. I didn't, but they're like, well, how far are you away? And if you can get your clinical license within, this amount of time, we'll put you in an interim and we'll help you. We'll pay for your test, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, no. I'm leaving. I'm going to this place. I don't want this job. And I did that. And I remember talking to my partner at the time, and they were like, why did you do that? And I was terrified. I was like, I cannot handle that. That's a big job. That's a big step. That's a big step from going to like a good worker to being over a team of like 20 people.
Right.
And then also, I'm usually the youngest one.
You are, but you always feel so good.
Yeah,
but you are always the youngest person.
Yeah, I'm always the youngest person. I was also like, on top of that, y'all got people here that have been working 10 years, and y'all gonna try to put me in, and I'm the baby on top of that. Like, no, these people aren't gonna respect me or respect my power. And then because I don't want to be, these are people I'm cool with, and then I have to move into the boss role, and then I have to set that boundary. Then all of a sudden it's gonna be this issue, blah blah blah. Anyways, the point is, I turned it down. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like I wouldn't be able to handle it. And then the position got taken to someone else who did nothing at all. Nothing at all. And I want to make it very clear that this is not shade to that person, because I understand why that person did nothing. And it was not a character. It was not a flaw of her not being adequate. I truly believe she was pushed into a position that she did not want, that she tried her hardest to escape. And they're like, nope, we have to have somebody. And I really believe she was pushed into it. And I really believe she was, at that time, was like, all right, well, I got to find another job. And that was her whole focus. So no shade to her, because she is actually an amazing person, an amazing worker. But after I left and so forth, and seeing that they had somebody who like didn't reach out, because my field is all connected to each other. I'm working a very niche section of social work. And everybody, if you're in this particular area of the field, you know each other. At least in this city, you're going to know each other, because it's a very small field. And once you get into it, if you stay, like we all end up knowing each other, because we all end up having to work with each other eventually. So yeah, when she got that position, like, was it coming to any of the meetings? And the reason I know this is because there was a long period of time we did not have a supervisor. Matter of fact, the whole time I worked for them, I didn't have a supervisor. And they couldn't find anybody that would take it. They couldn't find anybody who wanted it. This was a high, stressful job. And so because of my background, I had got this job because they knew me from another company where I had a contract and worked with them a lot. And then I also had a contract and worked with another company they had to work with a lot. And because of that, when they didn't have a supervisor, when it came to meetings, they asked me to step in, because they're like, you already know these people. You already have a connection with these people. You already been to these meetings, so you already know what to do in these meetings. So I end up, and I think that's a big part of why they're like, no, why don't you just take this position? You're already handling the meeting part of it in your regular job. But it was just one of those moments where it was just like, dang, I probably could have done that.
But you didn't have enough.
They put somebody in that position that literally didn't show up for a single meeting, didn't do no type of supervision, didn't answer nobody's phone calls. And like, it was fine. Like it was fine. Nobody, like, when I say it was fine, I mean like she was able to go on and get another job, a better job. Nobody in the field is like, oh, she was a bad blah blah blah. So in my head it was like, oh, you could have did that and failed your way up. Like,
right, you at least tried. But that's the thing, like, you self-doubt, like. But I mean, shoot, I guess you said that would be your getting found out. But I'm like, they thinking you can do it, you might as well fake it to you. But then it's just like you're nervous of your feelings of getting found out. So I get it.
Oh yeah. Even I remember there's a company I work for, and I was always really curious about this person that was at the top. I don't know, they weren't a director, they were above a director, but they weren't CEO or CFO or anything like that. But they were between those two levels. And I don't remember what their position was, but I could never figure out how this person got to where they got. Because on some areas, you're like, oh yeah, you got this. This is your talent. You're really good. And then on other areas, very important areas, you'll be like, what are they talking about? Have they never had a one-on-one class? What are we doing here? And then, you know what? I later found out, like, they had a degree in, like, basket weaving. It was a bullshit degree. It was a bullshit. And it's not to down their degree. They went to school. They earned that degree. But the job was clinical. It was a clinical position, and they were creating clinical programs. Like, they were head of the people. They were the head and this decision maker on how to create these clinical programs, how to run these clinical programs, and so forth and beyond. And so, like, it was just one of those moments that tripped me out, like, to have the confidence of a white man, because he didn't care that his degree was in basket weaving. He was like, I could definitely be CEO. And he just made it happen.
And still do it,
Didn't care that he didn't know. Did not care at all that he did not know the things that he should have known. And he's making it work. He's making it work. He's not even, and the thing is, he's not bad at it. He's good. He's good at it. There's definitely some things that you're like, I feel like you need to buy a book on something. Like, you can at least buy a book on this particular section. But no, he's actually doing well. But when, you know, I found out his background and story and so forth, I was just like, huh. Again, to have the confidence of a white man.
That's what I'm saying. You just have the confidence. Yeah, I mean, you have to have the confidence of a white man. But I'm just saying,
to have the audacity of a white man will get you far in life.
I just feel that you got it, but it's the self-doubt. No. Well, that's just my opinion.
No, I appreciate it. I reject your opinion, but thank you. But no, I brought that up to say, like, a lot of the times, kind of like my rebuttal to you, a lot of the times our rebuttals to what people think for us, that whole feeling of I'm a fraud, is a lie. And you probably are a badass, and you probably are capable of doing all those things and being that person that people think you are. You know, unless you're a liar, and scare me away with stuff.
But that's gonna come out too. That always comes out too.
Yeah, I need to throw that out there because, like, 15% of our listeners are from Atlanta, so I just feel the need to stress that we are not. I need y'all to just go ahead and y'all can pause this episode now and just go on about your way. But yeah, I think for the most part, for a lot of us, we are. And again, like, if you live long enough, you'll meet people who did not have the qualification, that did not have the degree, that did not have the, some didn't even have the smarts. And they made it because they believed in themselves. And they believe, like, no, I am this, and I'm going to be this. Yeah.
That's what it takes,
So essentially, just the whole imposter syndrome is like a syndrome that holds you back from your greatness.
Yeah, I agree. And you just have to, like, it's holding you back. So that's what you just have to believe. Believe what these people are saying. If it's a positive thing, not negative things.
Yes, I agree. But also taking some negative things. There's some people that are getting constructive criticism, and they're like, you are haters, I am great. And you're like, I am trying to save you from ruining everybody's life. Yeah, there are such things as constructive criticism, and we all need to be open to constructive criticism. Not me, y'all don't leave no constructive criticism comments. I am sensitive and I will not react well. Every constructive criticism comment, I'm just gonna leave a crying face emoji. That's gonna be my only response. No, I'm playing. I promise you, I take constructive criticism over the internet very well, because I can just log off. Like, I just like, I don't have to deal with this. I'm gonna just go ahead and log off and not look at this again. But yes, for the most part, listen when people are telling you how awesome you are, and believe that you are that awesome, and believe, and like Nique was saying, go back over all the great stuff you accomplished. People aren't just saying that out of nowhere. You have done stuff to make people believe that. And you probably have a pattern of doing awesome stuff. And you're going to continue to have that pattern of doing awesome stuff.
Yeah, it's like, make that your blueprint. Like, I am great. Like, I can do this, or I have done this before, so I will do it again.
Yeah. And then mess up. I want you to realize, like, there are CEOs right now losing their company billions of dollars and they still got a job. So it's fine. You'll be okay.
Definitely.
You'll be okay. I think I read the other day that Elon Musk lost like 50 million in one day. And guess what? That man outside being packed and photographed, smiling, eating ice cream. It's fine. Okay? It's fine. If you mess up, it's fine. You'll live another day. You'll learn from it and move on. So enough of me talking to myself. I think you guys will be interested in our next episode. We have a really good episode coming up next week. Also, we are working on an episode with 2 guests. It's going to be a battle of the sexes type of episode. We will be discussing relationship questions and issues, but we'll have 2 male guests on our show. One is going to be Rob of Down the Rabbit Hole podcast, and I will plug him sometime this week if you guys want to go and take a listen to his podcast. His podcast is mostly about the experience of individuals who grew up in the church, and he talks to people of different religions. So it can be the church, it can be the temple, wherever you worship, people that grew up in a religious background and people that left, and what their experience was like and what their life is like after, what that experience of leaving was like. So if you're interested in that, I'll definitely be plugging him later this week, and he will be one of our guests on the show, and we're working on
that
right now. I think we're working on it. It's a surprise guest. We're trying to figure out. But I do think that's going to be a really, really interesting episode. We're trying to get that one together. That one probably won't come out into the first week of April, but I think you guys will really, really enjoy it. I think it's going to be super dope because I have already talked to Rob and I have already had the conversation of all the things he cannot do on our show. Because I know him as a human being. I'm just like, hey, so yeah, everybody, the stats say that they're all grown, but could you not cuss every 5 seconds? Let's work on that. Let's try that. So we're having.
I'm glad you had those conversations
already. We've had conversations. I'm also like, hey, so I know you like to talk about sex. That's fine. That's fine. Let's not be too vulgar. Let's not get into full Pornhub details when you're trying to explain this question that was supposed to be about love.
Right.
But he's fun. I've been on 2 of his episodes before, and he's a fun person to interview with and talk to. So you guys have that to look forward to. Again, we'll have an episode next week, next Thursday, and I believe that one will be kind of a relationship-y episode. That will be an episode where we're really talking about knowing when to stand your ground and knowing when to leave, knowing when to trust your intuition, or knowing when, is that intuition or is that you? Are you self-sabotaging? And also, I think we're wrapping up that one. We also talk about manifesting your life and being okay with your life not working out the way you thought it was. I think I've told you guys this in another episode, but I turned 30 this year. And I think around the age of 30, a lot of people go through, well, astrologically speaking, it's your Saturn return around that age. But a lot of people go through like a panic mode of like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be so much farther. What am I doing? Why am I not here yet? And I think a big part of that is you have to, at some point, understand that your path and what you mapped out for your life may be different than what the universe has mapped out for your life. Yeah,
we'll talk about that. But
and at some point you have to at some point you got to be okay with it. At some point you can either fight it and go through that struggle just to have to go through it anyway, or you have to be like, okay, I'm open and receptive to the path the universe has for me.
Because you can make all these plans and they could come to fruition and then they can be just taken away. So it's just like you have to, this is tough.
Yeah. So that will be a great episode. I think you guys are going to like it. As time goes on, I'll try to see if we will be posting little mini clips throughout the week to keep engaging with you guys. Don't hesitate to write us, to leave us comments. We've had a few you guys write us and DM us, and we love it. We love it. Yeah. We love responding back to you guys. Yeah. It makes us happy when one of us is on the page and the other one's not. We'll screenshot it and send it to them. And be like, hey, so keep doing that because I love it.
I do.
Loves it. Yeah, and it's really, really encouraging. So as always, make sure if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe. Please like us on Instagram. Also on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. Also, if you're on Spotify, please follow us as well. And essentially, again, the more one, because we're working with an algorithm when it comes to social media, the more likes, follows, the more time you share our content, comment on our content, review our content, the more those social media platforms will show us to new audience.
And share with you.
Yeah.
With a friend, tell a friend.
Definitely share with your friend. Definitely share with your friends and so forth. And not just with us, with your other favorite podcasts as well. Because again, Instagram specifically changed their algorithm and it's making it really hard for content creators, especially new content creators that are starting out. Basically, the way they're doing it is like, the more likes you get, the more follows you get, the more saves you have, the more people share your content with other people, the more they'll show you to people. Well, that's kind of hard if you just started out and you only got like 300 followers. That's easier for the people that has 5 million followers already. And so what happens is the people with 5 million followers, they keep getting shown over and over to people. Whereas the smaller people that are trying to build their way up, it's a lot harder. So again, not just with us, but also your other favorite podcasts, the new ones that you're following. Also, we'll be posting some of the newer podcasts that we like, that we listen to, that we think you guys should give a look into. Yeah, and we'll post those in our stories. That way you can just click on their story and see if that's something you're interested in as well. Also, if you are a listener and you have your own podcast, definitely just send it in to us. We've had people send in their podcast to us. We've had people reach out about doing episodes with them on their podcast and possibly doing an episode with us on our podcast. And those are things we're receptive to. Yeah. But also, let's be on the same page. If you have a sports podcast, do not invite me on it because I'm going to just sit there and be like, yeah, I think it's real cool how they get the ball in the hoop when they're playing soccer. And you're going to be like, that's not
yeah.
So. Like the Raiders is my favorite baseball team. So don't invite me on those shows. But if we correlate, definitely make it happen. Any outgoing news, Nique, before we wrap it up?
Nope, just please share, tell a friend, and continue to listen to us. We love the support. We love support in our loyal fans. We do have loyal fans already, so I love that. So just continue to share and support. Let us know what you like and what you don't like, and be open to it. Be open because we're here for all of it.
We are, and I'm still keep posting like 3 times a day. So until we figure out the algorithm. Yes, every time you check your phone, you're gonna have a new Instagram post for me. Probably memes. I love memes. And then at the end, you're gonna see whatever update I need to get to y'all. But understand, it's for a reason.
Just support.
It's out of my heart. All right, guys. This has been a great episode. We will have another one for you next Thursday. I hope you guys have a great week. Be safe. Please still wear your mask, even if your state has decided you don't have to anymore.
Pretty please.
As I said earlier, I'm turning 30 this year. I really wanted to take a trip, and it's really looking kind of ish right now. It's really looking like the governor of Texas does not want me to be living my best life, and I have a problem with that. So please still wear your mask.